As long as the free body diagram is drawn correctly, it makes no difference whether the problem hides an angle, a spring, or a pair of symmetric cables inside it. There is no need for any miraculous mercy from the problem statement. The pencil in your own hand is enough to take it apart. This episode sets vector operations aside for a moment, shifting our primary focus to three-dimensional particle equilibrium in space. We move directly into the core material, how to handle pure angle decomposition without losing control, how to treat a spring that behaves according to its own geometry, and how to recognize a symmetric pair of cables at a glance. Our attention centers on four classic problems from Chapter 3 of Hibbeler's Statics: Problem 344, Problem 346, Problem 356, and Problem 360 together. They let us work through spatial projection, Cartesian vectors, and Hooke's law in a single, complete pass. Let's examine Problem 344 first. This falls under basic concurrent force equilibrium. Since the problem provides no spatial coordinate points at all, it tests one specific capability, our ability to translate angles directly into force components. To proceed, we isolate the particle at the origin and construct the free body diagram. Observing the setup, there are no special constraints, no pulleys, no springs, or zero force members, only pure geometric decomposition. 5 distinct forces act at this point, each behaving differently. The 10 kilonewton force lies in the horizontal XY plane marked with a familiar 7-24-25 right triangle. This triangle allows us to extract component ratios directly without computing sines or cosines, while its z component is 0 because it is a purely planar force. The 4 kilonewton force also lies in the xy plane, positioned to the left and forming a 30-degree angle with the negative y-axis. It projects into both horizontal directions, with 0 component along the vertical z-axis. Force F2 is where most errors occur. It sits entirely within the vertical yz plane, meaning it carries no x component whatsoever, forming a 30-degree angle with the negative y-axis and directed toward the positive z-axis. It contributes only to the y and z components. Finally, force F1 acts purely along the positive x-axis, and force F3 acts purely along the negative z-axis. Now, let's walk through the solution step by step. First, we apply equilibrium in the y direction. This direction is ideal because it contains only the 2 known forces and the single unknown force F2, allowing us to isolate and solve it directly without dragging along a cumbersome system of equations. Next, we establish the force balance in the x direction. With force F2 absent here, force F1 is the only remaining unknown in this line of action, making the equilibrium equation straightforward to solve. Third, we examine the equilibrium along the vertical z-axis. Substituting our previously determined value for force F2 into this vertical balance allows us to solve directly for force F3. All calculated magnitudes are positive, confirming that our initial force directions on the free body diagram were correct. The core takeaway for pure angle problems is to analyze which plane each force belongs to first, ensuring no non-existent components are forced into the equations. Moving on to problem 346, we explore how Hooke's law integrates with spatial vector mechanics. It is important to emphasize that even if equations are set up properly, treating a spring as a rigid cable will yield an incorrect result. The problem gives an unstretched spring length of 2 meters and a stiffness of 300 newtons per meter, asking us to find the resulting stretch. The core rule here is to treat the spring as a standard force element first, solve for its tensile force through spatial vector equilibrium, and only apply Hooke's law in the final step to find the elongation. This order cannot be reversed. At node O3, members converge. Hanging vertically downward is a weight of 196.2 newtons. Spring OA acts along the negative y-axis. Spring OB acts along the negative x-axis. And rope OC connects to a spatial coordinate point. We begin by constructing the unit position vector for rope OC based on its spatial coordinates, establishing its directional unit vector and force components. The force vectors for spring OA, spring OB, and the downward weight are expressed accordingly. Summing the vectors to satisfy spatial equilibrium gives a set of 3 component equations. Looking at the vertical z component equation, rope OC and the hanging weight are the only terms present, allowing us to immediately solve for the tension in rope OC. With the tension in rope OC known, we substitute it into the horizontal x and y balance equations to directly yield the tensions for spring OB and spring OA. Finally, we apply Hooke's law, dividing each spring's force by the stiffness gives the respective stretch values. Both values are positive, confirming continuous tension in the members. Next, let's examine problem 356 and problem 360 together. Although these two problems feature different physical setups, a flowerpot in problem 356 and a heavy cylinder in problem 360, they share the exact same structural logic, one member lying entirely within a plane of symmetry, and two other members forming a symmetric mirror pair. In problem 356, rope AB lies in the YZ plane, ropes AC and AD form a symmetric pair relative to that plane, requiring a two-layer angle projection, where we first project their forces onto the YZ plane and then decompose those projections along the coordinate axes. Setting up the vector equilibrium equations and utilizing symmetry reveals that ropes AD and AC carry equal tension, while rope AB carries a distinct value. In problem 360, an 800-pound cylinder is supported by 3 chains attached to a top ring. Chain AB lies in the plane of symmetry, while chains AC and AD, though attached to points on different axes, are actually mirror images across the symmetry plane containing chain AB. By defining the spatial coordinates of the attachment points, we determine the unit vectors for each chain and write the spatial equilibrium equations in the x, y, and z directions, observing how symmetry simplifies the relationships. Solving this linear system gives a distinct tension for chain AB and equal tensions for chains AC and AD. Looking at the summary comparison between these two problems, both share a single member lying in a specific plane and a mirror symmetric pair. In problem 356, the symmetric ropes require a two-layer angle decomposition onto planar projections, while in problem 360, the symmetric chains utilize coordinate-based position vectors. In both cases, mirror symmetry directly leads to equal tension forces in the symmetric pair, cutting the required equations roughly in half. Several common errors are worth watching for in these setup patterns. A frequent mistake is confusing the angle a member forms with a plane versus the angle its projection forms with an axis. In problem 356, mixing up which rope lies on the positive versus negative x side will reverse algebraic signs in the component balance. In problem 360, assuming a lack of symmetry simply because attachments sit on different coordinate axes leads to solving an unnecessary system of extra equations. The broader strategy for this structure is clear. First, handle the single member within its own plane in a straightforward way. Then, examine the remaining pair for mirror symmetry across any plane, even if they attach to differently named axes. Once symmetry is confirmed, one force component in a given direction can be stated directly as the negative of the other, simplifying the formulation significantly. Across all 4 problems in this episode, the essential process remains unchanged: determine which plane or axis each force belongs to, and whether it mirrors another member. Always identify the force with no extra components first, either a single planar member or one aligned along an axis, and start your first balance equation there. Keep 3 major pitfalls in mind for spatial analysis. First, forcing a non-existent third component onto a force that lies entirely within a coordinate plane. Second, reversing operations in spring problems by forming geometric stretch relations before establishing force equilibrium. And third, mistaking attachments on different axes for a lack of symmetry, missing a chance to eliminate equations. Finally, build good habits in your analysis. When given integer ratio triangles like 7, 24, 25, or 3, 4, 5, use component ratios directly rather than calculating trigonometric angles. When working with two-layer angles, verify on your free body diagram whether the angle is measured against an axis or a projected line. Once a spatial system is structured into clear vectors and equilibrium is solved, spring deformations can be determined effortlessly.